Well, hello and welcome to another edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. We appreciate your time and thank you for checking in. I'm your host, Chris Green, Director of Network Growth, and my team is the team at Avoya Travel that you would coordinate with for all of the details on affiliating with the #1 host agency in leisure travel. If you're a travel professional and you're looking for elite resources, marketing, technology, professional development, top-level relationships and commissions with all the key vendors, and the ability to offer your clients the benefit of Avoya Travel's 30-plus year relationship with American Express Travel, then you are 100% in the right place today. We have a great broadcast planned for you today. Danny Dobrott, Senior Manager of Avoya Mastermind, will be our featured Meet the Team guest in just a few moments. Danny is an expert in helping agents fine-tune the important details that lead to higher closing percentages, as well as more sales and commissions, and I think you're going to find our discussion very beneficial. We'll recap our current affiliation promotions and make sure you have all the ways to reach out with questions and your requests. We'll do that at the end of On Deck with Avoya. But first, well, the new details that sound a lot like the old details as far as cruising from the United States is concerned, as we turn our attention to this week's Eye on the Industry feature. The CDC update of the conditional sale order details and the industry reaction are our top stories this week on Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Last Friday came word that the CDC had issued new guidelines for the resumption of cruising from the United States. This came after weeks of heavy pressure and lobbying by all the key travel-related groups and associations like ASTA, CLIA, IATAN, and the others. For more information is what they were looking for, right? Details and a lifting of the CSO with the hope of resuming revenue sailings from the United States by this summer. Now, while some new information was released, it was very limited, and according to some key industry insiders, it didn't clear up very much at all. Before we discuss industry reactions to the CDC, let's first discuss some of the key changes that came about with the order revision from last Friday. One, a recommendation that all port employees, crew, and guests be vaccinated prior to sailing. And what's important here to note is that it was a recommendation and not a requirement. Two, crew members must be tested daily now, not weekly, with the results then forwarded to the CDC on a daily basis. Three, they have to make arrangements with medical facilities on land just in case during the sailings a COVID case does arise on the ship. And lastly, give a 30-day notice prior to any test sailings once all the other conditions have been met. And once they do that, follow this up with a 60-day advance notice and an application for a conditional sailing permit prior to when revenue sailings can begin. Industry reactions have been mostly negative or neutral at best. Norwegian Cruise Lines has already said they exceed all conditions set and sent the CDC a letter of notification on Monday that it plans to resume sailing in July from the United States, with all guests on its sailing being fully vaccinated. That's guests and crew. Of course, they're still awaiting CDC approval on that letter. Arnold Donald, the CEO of Carnival Cruise Lines, called the new CDC information very disappointing during his weekly call on Wednesday. He noted that Carnival currently has 30 ships in U.S. waters and all are in a green ship status. As far as alternative home ports, Carnival has stated several times they prefer not to do that. But again, quoting Arnold Donald, it's sooner rather than later that we might have to announce some additional home porting outside of the U.S. We're trying to hold back on that. I continue to be very focused on working with the CDC and the administration to come up with a solution that works for American workers and the American public. We'll continue to follow this story for further updates here on Deck with Avoya. CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association, called the new guidelines burdensome and largely unworkable. CLIA CEO Kelly Craighead was a guest on Royal Caribbean's Senior Vice President of Sales, Vicky Freed's weekly chat yesterday. And quoting Craighead, some of the information coming out of the CDC is a little confusing, noting that it normally takes 90 days to get a ship ready for sailing with paid guests, which would already put us into the early July timeframe. CLIA continues to remind travel professionals to use their voice and reach out to their congresspeople and demand action and fairness for the travel industry. Yesterday, ASTA sent a letter to the White House COVID-19 recovery team coordinator, Jeff Zients, demanding clarification on the CDC's conditional sale order. Financial support for the travel industry has been tragically inadequate, according to the ASTA. They pointed out that US-based travel agencies are the sales force for cruise ships worldwide, and their livelihoods depend on the resumption of cruising. Shasta CEO Zane Kirby adds that cruising is the only voluntary experience that has been singled out for scrutiny and additional, yet to be determined, regulations. In other cruise news, Virgin Voyages has canceled summer plans to sail from Miami and will now home port out of England. Citing the uncertainty of cruising from the United States, the Scarlet Lady will now be home ported in Portsmouth, England, and will begin a series of 3- and 4-day staycations at sea this August. Now, those sailings will only be open to fully vaccinated residents of the United Kingdom, but the move from Miami is only temporary, as they plan to then reposition the ship back to Florida for Caribbean sailing starting the end of September. Wyndham Hotels is expanding its brand in Belize, as they have announced a brand new resort on a private island just off Belize's most popular island, Ambergris Caye. The Turtle Island Beach Resort, trademark collection by Wyndham, offers 8 beach houses, 5 pet-friendly villas, and it's located just a 5-minute private ferry ride from the town of San Pedro. It sure sounds like a little slice of heaven to me. Belize is certainly on my personal travel list. In fact, I hope to get there this summer, and I plan on visiting Ambergris Caye myself. And finally, some good news for Disney fans that want the perfect photo for Instagram, or maybe just a keepsake on the mantle. Disney has slightly modified its mask policy at Florida's Disney World for taking photos outside that are socially distanced. Now, the new rule that went into effect today, April 8th, allows guests to remove the mask for photos that they take personally and the photos they take with staff photographers stationed around the Disney complex. Otherwise, the same mask policy is in place, mandating masks unless dining, swimming, or stationary while drinking while inside the park. But sometimes it's just the little things in life, right? I know I still treasure my family photo in front of the Disney castle that we took in the 70s, so I get it. People want that photo op. Time to turn our attention to my favorite segment of On Deck with Avoya and our Meet the Team feature. Danny Dobrott is our featured guest today, Senior Manager of Avoya Mastermind, who is not only a member of the Avoya team. Danny's a former affiliate in the Avoya Travel Network and a seasoned travel professional. Danny will be joining us here in just a moment to talk all things professional development, and I think you're going to find this a very worthwhile discussion, as Danny and the whole Mastermind team are one of the top core resources offered for those in the Avoya Travel Network. This amazing resource, at no additional charge to the members of the Avoya Travel Network, would easily cost agencies thousands of dollars to piece together on their own, and is certainly the top program offered by any host. Danny is an expert in assisting affiliates in making sure they're using the right strategies, the best practices to close at a higher rate, to generate more sales, commissions, and all the things that go into a successful independent agency. Danny, thanks so much for joining us today, and welcome to On Deck with Avoya.
Hello there. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Danny, before we talk about the Mastermind program, let's first go back in time to your first big travel adventure. What happened at a fairly early age, right? Tell me a little bit about spending a month in Europe and how that kind of inspired this lifelong passion for travel.
Right. So I always tell people I caught the travel bug at a young age. I was fortunate enough at the age of 10, my grandparents took me to Europe for an entire month in the summer. It was a trip I really looked forward to, and it really put the travel bug in me. Spent time in London, Paris, Florence, Venice, and Rome. Still remember it well, even though it's now been over almost 30 years ago. And it really just opened my eyes to travel and just the enjoyment of going and experiencing other destinations, other cultures, other food, and the like.
So then years down the road, you go from having this lifelong passion for travel to then opening your own travel business. How did you morph from that love of travel to making that a profession for yourself?
So my initial foray into travel was on on the tech side. I created a website. I was passionate about hotels, very passionate about hotels. Spent tons of time in hotels at the time, and I wanted to create more information about hotels. The idea being, if you've stayed at a hotel that you've stayed at many times, you kind of know where the better rooms are, where you get the better views. And the idea was to kind of create that level of a level of transparency and give that inside information to the public. So like a seat guru for hotels, it was called tripkick.com, did very well with it. It was listed one of Times magazine's best websites in 2008 and 2009. And loved that business. It was great. Had a lot of travel though. I was fortunate enough to sell the business to another company in 2010, and then they were kind of doing the same thing and did that with them. But it was a lot of travel. I would, on average, spend about 120 nights a year in hotels,
Wow.
traveling all around the world. I now know cities by hotels. So when people tell me they live in Pittsburgh or Cleveland, like what hotel's near you? Oh, the Ritz Carlton. Oh, the Sheraton. Oh, okay, I know where you live. So that was my first foray into building travel. But it was a passion, and I feel like if you're going to do something, and you have a passion for it, you'll find a way to be successful because you're not afraid to put in the work.
So Danny Dobrott is our special guest today. He's Senior Manager of Avoya Mastermind, and he's our featured guest here on our Meet the Team feature. Danny and I share a special bond because before neither one of us became members of the Avoya management team, I was the network expansion specialist, and Danny was looking for a possible host agency when you were thinking of getting involved in this side of the world. Tell me a little bit about the thought process that you went through as far as the decision-making in choosing a host agency. And what about Avoya Travel allowed it to kind of percolate towards the top of that list?
Sure. So as I said, my background was primarily hotels, and I was at a time where I kind of wanted to do something different in travel, get more to where I was focusing mainly on tech, wanted to get more towards the client side of business, and had recently gone on a cruise that I really enjoyed on Celebrity, and thought, this is an interesting place where I think, I could make some money and have a passion for it and do well. But I knew a business based off of friends and family wasn't going to make a business. I've helped friends and family book travel, of course, and continue to help them with figuring things out. But it wasn't going to make a business, so I had to figure, okay, how am I going to generate business? Knowing that online travel marketing is one of the most saturated online marketing parts of the internet. To try to market myself would just be way too costly when you've got the likes of Expedia and Costco out there, to get clients. That's not going to work. So I was searching for host agencies, and came across Avoya and discovered the Avoya Live Leads program. And doing some research, wanted to know, is this a real live leads? Do these leads really work, or is it just kind of you're getting a list of people and good luck? And after doing my own research and reaching out and seeing some of the other agencies that were already successful at Avoya, seeing that, yeah, this can really work. That these live leads can generate a business for you. You don't have to rely just on your sphere of influence, is kind of one of the things that I used to say. You can definitely build a business. So that's where I really chose Avoya. Seeing the Avoya live leads was the number one thing. The second thing was, what is their standing in the marketplace, right? There's a lot of nefarious people out there in the travel industry, kind of people that aren't as maybe truthful and kind of do bait and switch and things. And we're doing my research on the Andersons and the business, how Avoya is widely respected in the travel world and has amazing relationships with the cruise suppliers that I was looking to kind of be the part of my business. And I thought, okay, well, if they've got great relationships, they've got the reputation, coming under their umbrella as an affiliate is going to give me some credence as well as a new agency in this business. And also, too, if they've got great relationships with those suppliers, much easier for me to get better deals for my clients. So that way I'm really able to add that value. So that's really where I came down with Avoya. It was the Avoya Live Leads program, and then just that professionalism that Avoya brought to the table.
And then as an affiliate, you did very well. And, much like myself, after being a successful owner in the network, you transitioned into the employee side. So tell me a little bit about your current role as the senior manager of Avoya's Mastermind.
So my current role now is, I do work directly with some agency owners myself, people who, have that desire for extra professional development. As you mentioned, it is 100% free. There's no cost to it. So people can use our services as they see fit. And the thing about it is that with the no cost, there's also no pressure. We love agencies where they're at. So if you're someone that's looking to come in and you're maybe thinking about, you'd be happy with $100,000 in sales in a year. Great. We will help you with that in terms of, okay, what does time management look like for you? Because you have other things that you need to do, part-time jobs, family care, things like that. So what does time management look like to make that goal realistic for you and even creates more free time? And or if you're someone that comes in, well, you know what do I need to do to become $1 million agency? That looks very different in terms of the support that we can offer and the education that we can offer of what that would look like and how to build a business to get to that level. But we love you where you're at. You create, where you want. You're never going to hear pressure from us. So that's the one thing I really like about working with this team, is that we're able to work with people where they want to be. So there's never a pressure. of that because you are the owner of your own business. So it's whatever you want to do. And then it's really helping agencies, especially during this time of the pandemic of, okay, we saw cruising become non-existent for almost an entire year. So what do we do? How do we transition? How can we still make income? So, looking at our various land vendors that are still available, Mexico, those kinds of things. So being able to offer agencies a bird's eye view, because everyone on my team, we've all were successful agency owners. We all know what works and what doesn't. And we've seen other successful agencies, what works for them and what hasn't. So we offer those suggested best practices to people of, hey, this is what I see you're doing. Here's where I would recommend some changes to your business depending on what your goals are, to work within the Avoya system, because you can be successful, but it's a different system. The Avoya Live Leads do work, but you have to have the right mindset for it to be successful. And I will say, of the agencies that I work with, how promising the Avoid Live Leads are, of the $1 million agencies that are out there, again, most of their business is coming from Avoid Live Leads. It's not like these are people, oh, they've got a big book of business of friends and family that they've curated over the course of years. No, they started with Avoid Live Leads just like everybody else. And to this day, most of their business is Avoid Live Leads. And we've seen new agencies come to here at the Mastermind program and within a year become $1 million agency. They work hard at it. This is not the easiest job to make money at, but if you have a passion for travel, there is money to be made, and it's very, very easy to be successful within the Avoya system. Should you choose to join us?
No doubt about it. So much about our industry has just been flipped on its ear over the last year because of COVID-19. And you have a chance, as you were kind of alluding to talk to various agencies, and you've seen what works and you've seen what doesn't work. What are some of the things that you've noticed over the last year, Danny, that successful agencies do well that have helped them to remain vital in that whole process as far as dealing with their clients, things that they may have had to morph and pivot on due to COVID-19?
Well, the number one thing that's kept agencies successful is not being afraid of what's happening, right? This pandemic came at us, nothing you can do about it. Cruises are getting canceled, nothing you can do about it. So they didn't hide from their clients. They stayed ahead of it, providing information as things are updating, and things are getting updated every hour, it seems, right now, especially as things are kind of coming back in various new ways with new sailings. So the number one was, keeping in contact with your clients, not being afraid to pick up the phone and talk to your clients about where they're at, what they want to do with their vacations in the future. Second was not being afraid of land. Avoya has primarily been very cruise heavy, though we had been making investments in land offerings prior to the pandemic. That set us up to actually be able to kind of lean into those investments for agencies to, if you've been selling Royal Caribbean or Celebrity or Princess cruises, and that's business is dried up for right now because those clients want to hold off for obvious reasons. Club Med is going like gangbusters. People are booking Club Med like crazy. So helping the agencies we work with, are you open to taking land leads, right? Because more people take land vacations than cruise vacations. So there's still a lot of business there. And so it's helping agencies realize that they can pivot to land and the offerings we have there. And your clients that who've always booked their annual cruise with you, helping agencies figure out a path to letting that book of business know that they can also book land vacations. So maybe that client that didn't get to go on their Princess or Celebrity cruise this year or last year, maybe they want to go to Mexico this summer at all inclusive, and that's a 7-night stay with a great commission that they didn't realize you could do for them because you've only ever helped them with their Princess cruise.
It kind of leads me into my next question, Danny, which is one of the things I've always considered you a real expert at is that you just kind of call it like you see it, and you're very straightforward and truthful in that kind of directness. How do you help an affiliate and a travel professional not just make noise, right? Because sometimes I think people have this habit of making noise with a client when they're really trying to make a point, when they're trying to drive the process forward towards the conclusion, which is a sale and somebody getting an amazing vacation out of it. What are just some of the little tips that you do to help these affiliates be more successful with their business?
So the one thing that I always tell people with the Avoid Live Leads, right, is the live leads is not an invitation to sell a cruise. It's the invitation to build a relationship with somebody who will then want to potentially book a cruise with you because they don't know who you are. You have a sensory advantage because you're not face to face like you would be in a store. But even in a store, what the one thing I always tell people is when you're asked by a sales associate somewhere, can I help you with anything? What's the most common response? The answer is no,
Just
thank you.
looking,
I'm
just
just
looking.
looking, right? So when people say, well, I'm not getting response from these leads, well, let's look at your contact. Let's look at your follow-up. Are you providing information? Are you starting a conversation? Or are you just trying to get directly to the sale with how many people do you want to book? Because they've come to our website. They've seen a price. They're browsing, right? But everyone starts as a browser. The successful agencies here know that everyone starts as a browser. But then what do you say? What are you putting out there where that browser maybe wants to talk to you, right? They perceive you as an expert, not someone that's trying to sell them something, but someone that they should want to talk to more because it's like, what I always tell people, it's like going to Yelp, right? You want to hear the reviews of a restaurant. So people have questions when they're in the buying process, and buying a trip, a cruise is a big process, or a land vacation. So what can you give them to get them to the next stage of the buying process? Because right now they're browsing. What can you tell them that's going to want to make them hear more from you? Is it because you have better information, maybe better pricing information? What is that? And be specific to what their needs are, because there's a lot of like you said, it's easy to have white noise, and people then just delete your email because that is them saying, no, thank you, I'm fine, because they're thinking you're trying to sell something. But if you really, really can hone in your personalization and of your outreach, it's easy to be successful with these Avoya Live leads, but it just takes that bit of education. Some people come in, like gangbusters, and they get it. Some people kind of have to wrap their minds around it, but that's what we're here to help them with is, okay, wrap your mind around what this is, what the Avoya Live leads are. It's not someone who's waiting with a credit card to book a cruise. It's someone who's starting their search. How do you kind of help them with that and put yourself in there to build that relationship so they feel comfortable in talking more with you?
We're talking about the Mastermind program, and we're talking with Danny Dobrott, who is the senior manager of Avoya's Mastermind. And Danny, maybe a month or so ago, we had Tammy Ritchie on as a special guest. Tammy's our vice president of network engagement, and she had discussed how the people that voluntarily participate in our Mastermind program, they just flat out sell more travel. They close at a higher percentage. All of the vital metrics are higher. Why does a program like Avoya's Mastermind make such a difference?
Well, because we have the inside track, right? We're actually employees of Avoya, so we can see what the numbers, we can see what's working, what's not working. And those that choose to be in our program get outreach from us, where they're helping. So they're looking for that. We're not a partner, because they're doing their own business, but we're there, they're saying, hey, you told me you wanted to be, we're the kind of their accountability buddy. You told me at the beginning of the year, you wanted your agency to be at 500,000. We're halfway through the year and you're at 100,000. Has anything changed in your life? If things change where we need to adjust this goal, or are you still hoping to make that a reality? In which case, what can we do to kind of get you back on track for your agency? So it's a combination of those that choose to work with us want that accountability, they want that support, they have that fire to be successful, and then they also get the benefit of, we give them early access to our academies, which we used to do in person. Right now they're virtual, but every month right now we're doing virtual academies where we're taking a topic. This month I'm actually hosting an academy. It's a virtual academy. These are free of charge. The virtual ones are, and it's talking about upselling, how to think about upselling and the mindset of upselling. One thing I notice with a lot of people, they tend to quote from the bottom. Why is that? Why not start from the top and start taking away things instead of starting at the bottom and then adding things, but adding price too? So that's kind of what we're going to be going through, is the mindset of the upsell to the experience.
And if somebody was, on this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, they're considering affiliating with the Avoya Travel Network, they pull the trigger, they become affiliates, they can still participate in some of these amazing events that we have planned for the rest of 2021?
Yeah, so the events we're hosting, the virtual events, and when we used to do in-person events on cruise ships and things like that, they're open to the entire network. You do not need to be a part of the mastermind program to attend these things. The virtual events thus far that we're hosting are free. The in-person events that we host on cruise ships and things, there is a cost associated with that, but we usually get really great deals from our suppliers. That's another great thing about Avoya, is that we have suppliers that want to work with the agencies in our network, because our agencies tend to produce more sales for them as well. So they want to be in the Avoya network. They want to get that face time to help the agencies sell their product, because they all have sales targets and sales goals they want to meet. And the Avoya agency network is really good at helping them make that.
Our special guest today is Danny Dobrott, Senior Manager of Avoya Mastermind, our special guest on Deck with Avoya. Danny, let's transition from travel, something obviously very near and dear to all of our hearts, to something else near and dear to our hearts. Let's talk cookies. I'm lucky to live in a house with an extraordinary baker, and I have the body to prove it. But I understand you're quite the expert baker too. Tell me about this cookie obsession of yours and this crowd-pleasing recipe that you developed.
Yeah, so I've always loved cookies, and baking. I've always, since a young age, always liked to be in the kitchen baking and cooking. Having growing up partly in Denver, that was kind of a fun way to pass away the time in the winter. And I've always loved chocolate chip cookies. Always loved chocolate chip cookies. I discovered an amazing bakery in New York called Levan Bakery. They have the most amazing cookies, and I thought, I want to try to make my own cookie, because I've made a lot of different cookie recipes and like different things from different ones. So I set about in creating one. So over the years, I've just kind of taken a recipe, written it out, and then sort of modified it here and there. And now I have a recipe that I love, and everyone always loves it. People always ask, "Hey, can you bring some cookies to the party?" I actually usually keep a bunch of frozen cookie dough, so that way I can just bake a few off for people when they want it. But yeah, I love to bake anything: cookies, cakes, all different kinds of things. My partner's actually kind of sick of my cookies because they're always in the freezer. So he's like, "Oh, I don't need any cookies today. Can we bake something else?" So yeah, I've always been a big baker. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Always had a sweet tooth for baked goods. Not so much like sweet sweets, like sugary sweets, but baked
Right.
goods. I've always had a hankering for.
Yeah, I've got a hankering for that too. And I joked about having the body of somebody who loves baked goods. You found a way to keep off the extra pounds from this indulgence because you're like a workout machine, right? And you
Yeah,
love the Peloton.
people ask me, like, how do you stay so skinny with all the baking you do? Well, I work out 60 minutes a day, at least 5 times a week. A lot of that's Peloton, strength training. So because I like to still fit in my clothes, which almost, didn't happen over the COVID period. I did gain the COVID-19 like everybody, because I stopped working out because the gym's closed. So I had to get a Peloton to kind of figure that out, and I love it. So I'm obsessed with Peloton. I do all the classes. Like I said, I'm 60 minutes every day. Again, because by doing the Peloton, I was wondering, why am I gaining weight? Well, because I'm not working out anymore. And so I'm still eating the same way that I used to. So, going back to maybe eating just a little better, but then adding that workouts back in allows me to, feel good, feel healthy. Also to just being at home all day kind of gets in my job is in a desk chair all day. It keeps me moving, keeps me going, keeps me young.
Well, congratulations. You're the only person I know that got a Peloton because of COVID that hasn't turned it into a coat rack yet. So congratulations on that. Danny, we really appreciate you spending time with us today. Before we let you go, what piece of advice would you offer, say, is really vital for this immediate time that we're in right now, if you're just asked for advice from a travel professional?
So I would say, the advice I would have is be an expert, right? If you're going to come in and sell travel, be an expert in it. It's one thing when your friends and family ask you to help them plan a vacation. They know you, they trust you. These Avoid Live leads don't know you, don't trust you. So the easiest way to gain their trust is if they perceive you as an expert on everything. When I had my agency, I was the celebrity expert because it's my favorite cruise line for personal travel. So it's easy for me to know everything about it. There's lots of ways to be experts, and even if you've never been on a cruise before or never been on a certain type of trip before, there's ways you can train yourself to be an expert, to learn all the information you need to learn. And that's what here at Mastermind we're about, helping you figure out that path, what that looks like for you. But really, especially going forward, COVID's lessening. We're seeing travel opening, but it's not going away, and things are changing constantly. And again, the successful agencies, they're experts in the fields that they sell and the products they sell. So when their clients ask them, well, what are the testing requirements, vaccine requirements, they know like that. And so their clients feel comfortable with them and comfortable that they're going to feel safe and know everything that they need to know, and know, random things. Oh, I don't have this piece of I don't have this paperwork, or I didn't take this test before they get to the airport. So that's really the key thing right now, is be the expert. Don't be afraid of the work. You can be successful, but you got to put the work in, like any business. You got to, Steve Jobs didn't create Apple without putting a lot of work in. There's no business worth doing that's easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great advice, Danny. Danny Dobrott, everyone, Senior Manager of Avoya Mastermind. Danny, thank you again for your time and for your expertise today.
Thank you. Hope to see some of the people on this call in Mastermind soon.
Absolutely. Danny Dobrott joining us today. Next week, we're going to get technical with you, as our Meet the Team guest is Chris Watson, Senior Engineer at Avoya Travel. Chris knows all the ins and outs of our top-level technology program, Avoya's exclusive agent power system, and I look forward to having him join us next Thursday. No doubt we're all going to learn a lot of things from Chris when he joins us next Thursday. Moving forward, let's talk about some of our current promotions that we have so that you could join the network. We have 2 active promotions for those that would be new to the Avoya Travel Network. One, if you're a seasoned travel professional, somebody that's probably did at least $500,000 in gross sales in 2019, had some future cruise credits, some future travel credits, probably starting to hear the phone ring from your clients reaching out to you, and maybe you're looking for just a more competitive home. Well, we have a way for you to join the network for free. That's right. Reach out to Avoya Travel, talk to one of our network expansion specialists. They can get you qualified for that promotion. It'll save you the $495 in affiliation fees. If you're still trying to get to that level, and hopefully you heard something today from Danny about our mastermind program that you really think could help you elevate your game to that next level, well, we've got a promotion for you as well. You pay the normal affiliation fee, but we're waiving our initial renewal fee. So that saves you money on that initial renewal, as long as at the end of the initial 6 months, both partners want to continue on with the relationship. Again, my team is more than happy to get you qualified and answer all of your questions as far as that goes. You can explore with complete flexibility. There's no long-term contract or exclusive agreement. Contact us again for eligibility and offer details. Don't delay your success. This is only for a limited time. I don't have the exact expiration date, but right now I think it's kind of set to expire towards the end of April. So you might want to pick up the phone, send us an email, get in touch with Avoya Travel, because we would love to have that conversation with you. And how do you reach out? How do you get a hold of us? Well, pretty simple there as well. There is my personal contact information. I'd love to have a conversation with you, get you in touch with one of my team people. We can set up a demonstration for our agent power system. It's chris.green@avoyatravel.com. There's a number you can reach us at. You can put in a request through our website at avoyanetwork.com. On Facebook, you can just respond to this particular On Deck with Avoya. If you see us on YouTube, you can do the same thing. Again, we would love to connect with you. And we really appreciate your time, and we hope you got something today from our fantastic conversation with Danny. I know I found that fascinating. I'm really looking forward to next week's guest, Chris Watson, joining us. We appreciate your time every week here on Deck with Avoya. A special thank you again to my guest, Danny Dobrott, Senior Manager of Avoya Travel's Mastermind Program, and of course to Marissa Smith, who produces our segment in the background. I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you again for your time for On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update.